And we are live. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Hi.
Just going to give it a couple minutes so people can join. All right. How's everyone feeling this morning?
Great. Good. Awake.
Oh, wait, good. We love to hear.
It's warm here in Canada, so we're good.
It is, thankfully.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What is warm?
Warm is higher than 0.
Higher than 0.
Accurate.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal here, but we're doing fine. We're doing fine.
We're surviving.
Exactly.
Right. I think we have a couple people on. That's exciting. Hello. Thank you for joining us this early. I think it's early for our friends in Texas right now, but it's 11 for us in Eastern Standard. All right, we got a couple of friends on. Is everyone ready? Feel ready to dive in? We feeling good?
Ready?
Yeah, ready?
All right, let's do this. So, everyone, thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Jules. I am the partnership coordinator here at Sprout. I am joined by an incredible panel of guests today, our Sprout ambassadors. And I'm going to introduce you individually just so I can shamelessly promote each of you, if that's all right with you.
Totally fine.
All right, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Tomayia Colvin, a nationally published photographer, best-selling children's author, classroom teacher, and photography educator who's coming to us from Houston, Texas this morning. Dr. Colvin's studies focused in executive educational leadership, studying the success of Black women photographers, educational and organizational leadership, and community. He is the founder of Tomayia Colvin Education, an online educational platform for photographers who want to learn how to run a successful business while being inclusive. Tomayia is very passionate about encouraging photographers to create a business that honors and showcases diversity. Did I miss anything?
You got it.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. I'm so
You're
happy to meet
welcome.
you formally instead of through text, so I'm very happy to have you here. And also joining us from Texas today is LaJune King, radiating pink starburst energy. LaJune's mission is to empower her clients to be the best version of themselves through portraiture while changing the narrative for people of color. In addition to photography, LaJune enjoys educating other creatives on crafting a signature client experience through mentorship and her online classroom. LaJune, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And coming from Atlanta, we have Shanicka Roberts, personal branding photographer who is best known for her modern portraits of families and creative entrepreneurs. Shan is co-founder of Photography Bay Atlanta, a platform that provides resources for photographers who want to further develop their skills and knowledge in the industry. From her work to her involvement within the community, Shan is passionate about encouraging others to pursue their dreams and strive for success no matter what obstacles they may face along the way. Shan, thank you for being here. We're a big fan of you, as you know. And coming from Boston, Massachusetts, we have Osa. Osa is a headshot and corporate event photographer who focuses on creating images for everyday people and creating inclusive content for large organizations. Osa enjoys capturing meaningful moments and using his lens to tell compelling stories. Osa, thanks for joining us today. And my fellow Canadian, coming to us from Montreal, we have Yvens, who's a commercial and portrait photographer whose work focuses on storytelling through light, movement, and bodies, from portraits to sports athletes. My goodness, I can't talk this morning. Sports athletes, Yvens uses his lens to tell stories of hard work, struggle, passion, and victory.
Hi.
So we have such a diverse group of individuals here today from all over America, from all over Canada. So I'm just very happy to have everyone here in one place, and I'm excited to hear from each of you. So I'm gonna ask one question to kick us off, and then I'm gonna shut my mouth and let you guys talk. Sounds good?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yes.
All right. Whoever would like to start us off, I would love to hear, why is it important that we learn about Black history?
Who's taking this one first?
I'll start and then everyone can piggyback off of me. So, for example, it's important for us to learn about Black history because unfortunately, people of color is losing their history. When I say we're losing our history, a lot of the information that our grandparents or our parents may have learned in school, they are now either removing it from the history books or unfortunately, children who are growing up such as LaJune's kids or Dr. Tomayia's children, if the parents are not teaching it in the household, then the children won't know the importance and the enrichment of our actual history.
I think it's important to continue to learn about Black history because it's still happening. Everything that we have experienced to some degree is still happening in 2023, and we cannot turn a blind eye to Black history. Not only that, whenever you hear someone say, I don't see color, this is the moment when you should see color so you can be intentional with how you treat people of all races.
If I have to add a point that maybe is often forgotten in the old Black conversation, is there's subcultures. Black is a big umbrella, but there are also, like, I'm not American, so for me, my Black is not Black American. It is Haitian, which is entirely different from the entire perspective that you guys have. My culture is so beautiful, so vibrant, so rich, and I don't want to be lost in the weeds of so many big umbrellas when we can go really deep down and just look at the person, where they come from, habits that you picked up, or history that we have. We have a beautiful history about, like, vanquishing odds that we had. So I think that's stuff that we have to share also within the Black History Month, just to be just a little more focused on the individual, except for the big umbrella that we have as peoples. Because I'm fairly certain that you all come from different origins. If we have to go back, for you, maybe it's a bit more lost because I mean, you guys come from the U.S. and there's been a lot of layers. For me, it's like my parents are from Haiti. I'm here, and that's it. So I think that's the history, maybe the perspective I want to bring into Black History Month, which is important to me.
Thank you for sharing that. Similar to you, my parents are from Nigeria, and so my understanding of Black history actually didn't really form until um, and you can just think, going through 18 years of school, not really understanding Black history, even going through a public school system. So um, now, why is it so important to me as an adult? Going into my 30s, it's that um, in order to fully kind of grasp this thing we call life, you have to take everything into context. If you don't take into context Black history, you're not taking into account the full narrative of the experiences of people around you. Um, and you're missing out on a bigger picture that can be told, or a bigger story that can be told.
I guess I'll end here in this point in saying I think that all experiences are important, and like Shan mentioned, is that if you from an educator perspective, if you look at like the curriculum that is now being taught in school, there is a lot of erasure happening, and when it comes to um, like what's now being included, like in some states, like there are like maybe 13 to 15 states that have voted to like not include slavery in the curriculum anymore, or due to like critical race theory. So when you look at things like that, is a lot of erasure happening in Black history across the United States. And so you can have a child in Texas and a child in Florida and a child from California all in the same grade, but their curriculum in regards to Black History Month will be completely different because there are some states that have removed some of the things or some of the history regarding our people from the textbooks. And so I think it's important for us to continue to have these conversations and not just during Black History Month. That it's a conversation that we have every single month so that our children and those around us have the opportunity to learn from the lived experiences of others.
No, thank you for sharing that. That's such a good point to bring up because I feel like we tend to shy away from parts of our history that are not favorable or that make us uncomfortable. And I see that even in our Canadian history a lot, that we only like to show, hey, these are the great things that we've done, but it's also, there's a lot of growing to do. There's a lot of things that we need to acknowledge and start talking about how we can do better. And I think, like you said, it starts from education, it starts from being transparent and saying this happened and it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked out exactly as you said, all year round, not just focusing on 1 month or one day because it's not okay and it needs to change. So thank you. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Sort of on the note of education, I have a question for each of you and then kind of something I wanted to share as well, what inspired this question. Just in preparation for organizing this event, I did a lot of research, spent a lot of time reading, and it came to me how much I didn't know. There are still so many things that I'm learning, and I'm trying to sit with the discomfort of how much I don't know and do the best that I can to educate, to learn from others, to ask questions, and I think at the end of the day, to just be comfortable admitting there's a lot of things that I don't know. So I would love to know what is something that you've had to unlearn about Black history?
Cool.
That was a little trick question. You can take a moment on that one.
Um, I have to be the change I want to see. I can't base my experience off of what my dad has gone through. My dad still has PTSD from growing up as a young Black kid in the 50s. So I have to understand, yes, things are still happening, but I have to learn how to navigate that with my own children and making sure that there's a lot of stuff that they hid from me, but I was always the kid when we would have book reports to do. I would do every single thing on Black people just because it was my thing. Now today I have to kind of shift it, but give my son and my daughter the grace to learn it, but also take their own interpretation from it. So every February we go on a Black History Month trip as a family. There's no different this month. Just taking that piece away from it, understanding that what his experiences were and what mine are, they are not the same, but at the same time, it can be, even in 2023 for me as a Black woman. Living in the suburbs, I still have to worry about walking outside of these four walls and making sure that I'm able to come home as well as my husband, my son, and my daughter.
No.
So if I want to piggyback maybe on what LaJune said, similar to whatever she said, you're not the sum of your parents' experience. You're just yourself in a new context. I mean, things are changing extremely rapidly nowadays, and I think adapting yourselves to the new context while being black, while being Haitian, while being a man, etc., etc. If we go deep, 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 I think that's the big lesson here. In order to not perform better in our society and also be the example that you want to see. I want my daughter to see me as a man that did something, although he was black, although this, and that, right? We have a lot of limitations that comes with sometimes with being black, and there's things you have to unlearn in order to just go further and go deeper in your career. So that's the unlearning I had to do. Is you're not your parents, you're yourself. Figure it out.
One big myth that I had to unlearn is that society or the world would say that black people was not educated or black people did not know because of slavery or because of the inopportunities the opportunities that they didn't have in slavery, but instead black people were the most uh, just they created inventors. You have Garrett A. Morgan for the red light. You have Madam C.J. Walker, who was a phenomenal trailblazer within the Black American hair industry. And even though those people may not have had the education or the opportunity that other counterparts had, one of those things that I had to realize is they still were very pivotal in our history that we have. And they still made a way to strive and to rise against adversity.
I have a question, Shan, for you about this. Is let's say you talk about uneducated people, but then I look at Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and all quit college like really early. Is it a certain bias that we have towards that, or do you think it's like, can you maybe like just flower it up just so I can understand? Because I'm not very privy to the American side of the story, so maybe you can educate me a bit more on this.
I would like to think of it as the tenacity. How bad did they really want it? Everyone has the same opportunity. It's just that mindset. So, for example, if there was a sharecropper, like my grandparents owned land and they had sharecropping, right? Well, if they didn't have books, what did they do? They found a way to get a book, or they found a way to have a go and get a Bible to educate themselves. It's the same thing. Everyone has an opportunity. That's just like you saying, "Oh, poor is a homeless person on the corner." Well, it's that whole mindset. Unless they want to see the change and be the change, there's nothing that anyone can do to help them unless they get out of that poverty mindset.
Yeah, I get it. It's totally get it.
Cool.
I think the thing for me that I had to unlearn was that just because the history is important to me doesn't mean that it's going to be important to other people. And I walked in a space where I thought, well, this is important to me, and I just assumed that everyone else would care about it just as much as I. But understanding again that some people don't, or they haven't been exposed to even know what my lived experience looks like. And so I think for me that was one of the biggest things that I had to like unlearn, is that or relearn that everyone is not going to share the exact same um, belief system and or like Shan said, mindset, that this is important, and acknowledge that there's something that did go wrong. And then these are some ways and tools in which we can move ahead together, like forward.
Um, Even I guess on the same pathway that is, um, I had to unlearn that because for a very long time I was like, oh, someone will just get it, someone will just understand it, and they don't understand it, and it's like, okay, I have to point it out, but then I had to say, okay, one, I shouldn't feel like it's always my job to
Hmm.
do learning for someone else, um, and two, um, it was really important for me to understand that as I'm growing as a Black man in America, who is the eldest son of two immigrants from Nigeria. I am the captain of the story that I'm telling, right? And I can't allow someone else to tell that story for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question for the entire panel, and this is as a personal curiosity. Like Jules said that we personally unlearn some things. What are the actions that you think we can do to unlearn our society from the old black thing? Like any actions that we can do to like just flip the switch on some preconceived ideas or stigmas or things that they see that we don't live, that you think we could do? I know it's a tough question, so
When
It's
you
one of those things
say,
where, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
It's one of those things. If you don't know, you don't know, right? So, for example, you spoke earlier about being Haitian and having a completely different experience as a Haitian American versus a African American, or I can even flip the switch saying Osa is Nigerian, so he's a Nigerian American. One of the things that you can do to change or to unlearn is to be more conscious, right? So you have to make that cognitive connection of what I thought was right or what I know is right or wrong. If you don't go and find out for yourself that truth, then unfortunately you're going to be living your whole life in a lie or a story, however you want to call it. So, for example, if my mom says yes, the sky is green, and I can look at the sky all day and the sky is blue, but because my mom said the sky is green, I'm going to believe her unless I go and challenge what the sky color is. So it's one of those things where you have to be mindful and go and do the research yourself. Just as LaJune said, every February she goes and go on a trip for Black History so that she's able to educate her children. So if they had a conversation with one of their peers or classmates, and they said, "Well, Martin Luther King didn't do, he wasn't a pivotal role in the civil rights um, era," then her children would say, "No, Martin Luther King did this, he was that, and that," and they have um, these factual references versus what the persona of, well, somebody told me this, or I think that. They know firsthand based upon that educational experience with their family what is right versus what is wrong, what is a facade versus what is fact.
so if I have to
Go ahead.
synthesize what you said, is just basically bringing it back to your own education, how to unlearn those patterns in other people, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think also black people, umbrella, black people are gonna have it harder in this world than anybody else. I don't care what level of employment you are in. Um, your payment wage says it all. Um, you can have the same qualifications as your counterparts, and you may come in well under them. You may be above them, coming well under them because we're underpaid. But we have the same knowledge that that next person would coming in. We may have some other qualifications that we have to meet before we can do X, Y, Z because of the color of our skin. I know we've already spoken about the billionaires who don't even have a college education, but yet I have to ensure that I show you proof that I have a 4-year degree to do something that I really want to do, or do something I don't care to do. I just want a job. I just want a decent paying job so I can provide the lifestyle for my kids that I want. It boils down to all of that. So it's just everybody taking a moment to shift their mindset. Um, and even the same resources, like we're not provided the same resources. I'll even go in on business loans for my studio. Do you think I have one? I do not. That money came out of mine and my husband's pocket. We actually tried to get a business loan for did I say student loan or business loan? I meant to say business loan. I'm thinking about my student loans. We even, tried to get a business loan to open up the next studio so we don't have to use our own money. What do you think happened?
Not.
Qualified. What is it? I just think that it's bigger than us. Um, while we have to unlearn things with Black history or American history in general, I think that everybody has to shift with us to do that, or else we're going to be stuck where we are the entire time.
And a question for, again, out of my own lack of knowledge about the American system, because I'm Canadian. Um, are you guys have more evolved systems of, let's say, the Jewish community has a big system where they lend each other money, right? So money goes around and around. So they have their own banks, they have their own lending facilities. It's even prevalent here in Canada because I know about it because my Jewish friends tell me about it. Do you have a similar system set up between Black folks in the U.S. to like maybe revitalize
I wish.
your finances? Yeah,
At once upon a time, we had this Black Wall Street. You ever heard of it?
yeah.
Okay, yep,
Back
burned
in
down.
back in days, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But no, we don't have it. Even the best Black people in business that I know who are doing really well still don't have the same resources as someone else. Like they just still don't. They're it's enough to where you can be here if I'm here, but never can we be here or never can I be here. It will always have to be like this. And I just feel like we just have to shift as a world to where everybody can comfortably be who they want to be, thrive how they want to be, and that's it.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning lots already. I just appreciate hearing your perspective. I think even said just the difference between even the ecosystem of being an American versus a Canadian, because there's so much overlap in the history, but I think like even we were saying earlier, it's taught so differently too, and the things that we learn end up being things that we have to unlearn later on in life, and it seems so backwards. It should just be this is what you're taught, and it should be readily available. It should be taught as part of curriculum. It's you're always growing, you're always learning, and it's awesome to do your own research, but it should absolutely be much more accessible, mandatory learning, like not something that we're shying away from or being uncomfortable learning about and talking about. And it's incredibly frustrating that it is. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. I had a question I was going to ask. LaJune, I know you said that you take your family every February and you go on a Black History trip.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to ask everyone else, what does celebrating Black History look like for you personally?
It's really every day, but we just make it a point to put emphasis on it in February and Juneteenth. So I mean, I feel that way for them. I don't know. I don't want to answer for them, but I mean, this is the life we live every single day. But
That
because
was
the
my
world has, yeah,
Yeah.
just
it
Yeah.
given
was
us 28 days,
yeah.
we make the most of
Yeah.
it. And we look at this 28 days as the least amount of days out of the year that we get to celebrate because, Black History started out as 1 week. So, whatever. But I just, again, that is an example of here, take your 28 days, maybe 29, every 4 years and celebrate Black History.
Yeah, I think someone just commented, Tosh Haynes just commented, and she said, and it's so important is that um, American history wants to put Black history as Black history, right? It's Black history, but the truth of the matter is this is American history, and it's uncomfortable to include it in American history because now it's not this grandiose, like beautiful ray of sunshine that it's like, oh, America, the land of the great and the free. Well, no, America is also the land of slavery, right? And so to put it American Black history inside of American history requires people to do the work of accountability of
Mhm.
that your grandma and your grandpa those people, if we're not even going like up 4 generations, we're talking about your granny and your grandpa, right? Were a part of the segregation, or a part of when, during the part like when they're trying to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this is not like some, and I don't want to get passionate about this, but this is not like some, like, oh, this happened like 500 years ago. No, no, my love, this happened. Your granny did that. You see? So I think that's the part of where it makes Black history uncomfortable, because this is a like true lived experience that your grandma, although she made apple pies, my love, she also was a part of being a part of the system of racism in the United States. And I think that's what makes it very difficult, is when we're like, oh, it's Black History Month. It is, but it's also very much so American history, and your grandma and your great grandma was a part of that process.
Yeah, that is such a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Like, even just me reflecting on that internally, I'm like, some of the older generations that I see, like family members, and like thinking about comments that I've heard, and I'm just like, why do you think that's okay to say, or why do you think that's okay, an okay
Yeah.
perspective to have? And it's like, I try and have grace with people because I understand that's the culture you were brought up in, but it's also, you need to do the work. You need to understand, like, just because this is how people spoke at one point doesn't mean it's okay to continue that worldview or to pass it on to the next generation. And I'm trying to do my best to educate myself to exactly that, to unlearn things that I've probably internalized from
Mhm.
people I'm surrounded with, whether that's conscious or unconscious. And I think, like we've been saying, it's an ongoing process. It's a lot of self-awareness and world awareness too, to just start paying attention and to start learning and to get passionate about learning and unlearning things that you've grown up with, and being like, where did that opinion come from, or where did that perspective come from, or why do I think this is okay, or why isn't this okay? And
And I think for me, one of the things was having to realize that there are some beliefs that I was brought up with that are absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. Like, how did you even come up with that? You know what I'm saying? But also having the courage to say, hey, that's not right. That's granted, that's not right. But that's her lived experience. But I also have to be, cognizant of saying, hey, that's not right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to pop over to the comments very quickly. I just saw a couple coming in. Lauren said, it's a hard truth to accept, but so important to acknowledge. Great point, Dr. Tomayia. Thank you. Um, the other comment I wanted to read out, also from Lauren, she said, I think language choice is huge in reshaping the ideologies in our society and starting on that path to unlearning. That was actually a question I had surrounding language, because that's something that I've done a lot of learning on recently, is, I guess, proper verbiage. I'm showing my uneducation here, but what is appropriate verbiage in 2023? How can we be better?
I think first off, you all should be okay with calling me black, okay? Because that is what I am. It is okay to say Black woman photographer. It is okay to see and be around Black excellence. Um, it's okay. It is okay to see that. It is okay to speak on it. Um, the funniest thing way I can relate this to is being at a basketball or a soccer game. I'll use soccer because it's happened full times with both of my kids, and a mom may say, "Oh my God, this is so fun," blah blah blah, all that stuff, and then they're like, "Oh, which kid is yours?" So I have to come up with a way for them to understand which kid is mine without saying the little Black kid. So I'll say, "Oh, the girl with the pink socks," or the boy with the high black socks. Like, I have to say things like that when clearly you know who my child is. I mean, I don't have to say that. I can easily say the Black kid, but it's going to make them uncomfortable because they didn't say it, or they, I guess, I don't know. You don't ever want to assume whose kid is whose. But it is okay to describe someone as a Black human being, if that is what they are. Um, that's the first thing. I think culture appropriation is at an all-time high right now, and that I think that it is okay to embrace the culture when it's good, but you also have to do the same thing when it's not, when it's bad, when the world is turning upside down. Um, you have to sometimes be an ally and speak up with us, because we don't need them to speak for us, but speak up with us. Um, those are just a few things that come to mind.
I guess whenever you see, like LaJune said, anything that's negative in some cultures, some subcultures of who we are, yeah, it's okay to call it out. I don't deem us as stupid. We see the bad things that we see, right? So all the negative things that you see about something, violence, crimes, anything, we see it too, right? And I don't think we appreciate it. So it's important to call these out, and also I think there's a call for us to be excellent, to call for excellency, not just by being black, but just being the best that we as individuals can, and then going over those barriers. Because I like to push back on being a black photographer. I'm a photographer, and I want to be very, very, very good at what I do. And the rest to me is just details. I just happen to be born in this shape and form and skin color, right? So um, uh, there's beauty in what we are, but there's beauty mostly in what we do. And then we're gonna leave the world a better place if we focus on what we do instead of what we are. And that's the perspective I try to get all the time. Is I don't care where you come from, do good work, and hopefully you'll rise to the level that you want to be, and the rest will sort itself out. I hope.
So I want to come back to your point, but mostly touch on LaJune's point briefly. Um, there's this notion that, oh, you're embracing Black culture, you're embracing you know um, kind of what you see around you. But I think sometimes we have to be honest with ourselves and say, no, folks are just stealing content to make it feel trendy. And I don't want people to say, oh, yeah, I'm the new so and so. I'm this new, very inclusive and diverse photographer, and I have a bunch of experience using diverse people and cheating and not cheating, but I'm photographing people. Um, and then you realize their entire client base is monoethnic, and you say, "Oh, because it's on trend, I'm going to be like all these other people." And I think there has to be a lot of money done in that space for folks because um, don't use this as a trending, a pl- just don't use us as a way to market to other people just so you can make more money. We have to be excellent at all times just to hit your baseline, and
Yes.
that can be frustrating. That can be very frustrating. Um, but also, Evans, to your point, um, as much as I want to be, just a photographer, I am a Black photographer, and that's a capital B. Um, and it's important because we always have to make sure that people take into account our experience and our lived truth, because it's not the same. So that's one. Two, um, it's it can be very rewarding, to be in spaces where you're giving different perspectives because um, as I have, you know, gotten better at celebrating Black History Month, and not just Black History Month, but even just myself over the years, in my experience, I'm learning that just showing up and being in the space is a celebration, you know. And I also have to remember that, okay, if I'm in this space right now, right, that's something to be celebrated because 5 years ago, a year ago, 30 days ago, I probably would not have been welcomed in the space that I'm here now. All right, cool. So celebrate that by being great at what we do. Um, So there's that, and then Evans, you had one point that I want to come back to, but I forgot it already. But if I come back to it, I'll let you know, and we can
I,
chat
I
because.
have something to piggyback off of really quick,
Go
based
ahead.
off of what you said and what I picked up when he said about stealing content. These are one of the things that we have to unlearn or teach people. I don't know how you want to do it, but as a Black woman photographer, there are three on this call, right? When you pull up SEO and you pull in Black woman photographer, there should be no women popping up unless they are Black women. But if you type in Black woman photographer, you're going to have so many different races popping up on SEO for Black woman photographer. That in itself is wrong. And it's huge. And we don't necessarily have to call anyone out specifically because you can literally Google that in your area and see who pops up for that.
I have a question again based on my Canadian experience. Is there something that is there's a market for it? So, for example, within your own community, is there something? Okay, I want a
Yes.
black woman photographer. Is it something
Yes,
that's
so I market myself as a Black woman photographer. I market myself as a Black. I changed the narrative for Black men, women, and people of color intentionally because I need the world to see their joy through my eyes. So if anyone ever becomes a hashtag, I have the positive imagery of them to push out into the world. So yes, LaJune King is intentional with how she represents herself, her brand, and all of that. Now, so that means that I have to make myself found for that. And that is how people find me. So if you were to Google that in, I'm pretty sure where you are too, it might be a thing. You would see how many people pop up for that when they should not be popping up for a Black woman photographer.
is it because of the SEO claims that they made, piggybacking off of Osa, saying that they're using diversity as a tool for marketing themselves? Is it this issue, or is just because I'm just trying to clarify the point here of, let's say Osa made a point that like some people use black and diversity as a trend and then as a marketing tool instead of being
No,
the
you these
the
yeah,
driving
these are
vehicle, right?
keywords. These are actual keywords. So you have
Hmm.
to, embed them into your system.
Yeah.
And you can market Black women or Black people or people of color throughout your website and your Instagram if that's how you want to market people. You don't necessarily have to trick people into thinking that you are a Black blank photographer.
Okay.
So it's differentiating between like someone bidding on keywords to try and take advantage of that versus someone saying, this is how I want to show up for my clients. This is core to my identity. Is that just for clarity
Yeah.
on one too?
So
Yeah. Like
basically,
my
what say, without we're trying to be politically correct and probably not so much Malcolm but
I
Martin today.
was supposed to say in a minute because y'all
Um,
skating all over the subject.
what she's trying to say is, in being kind, is that people that are non-black are using black people SEO and taking and or trying to get clients that are black. That's what she's trying to say. In other words, so if you Google, I'll just say what it is. It's 10 in the morning, and I'm really not up this early most days. But what she's trying to say is that um black photographers or um black women photographers, black men photographers, etc. There's a space in our lives where our clients look for black photographers. That is a real thing. That is a super duper real thing. And so what she's saying is that there are other photographers that are not black that are using search engine optimization and getting themselves found as a black photographer, although they are not. That's what she was trying to say. She was trying to say it nicely.
was.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah. Hmm.
But it reminds me of, I'm gonna just say it. You may not have ever heard it in your life, Jules, but you hear it today. All my life I had to fight. That is a quote from The Color Purple, um, by Oprah Winfrey. So ever since, our parents, grandparents, ancestors has always had to fight. Unfortunately, we have gotten the short end of the stick. Unfortunately, everything we can do is so great, so powerful, and is not acknowledged. Instead of it being acknowledged, it is stolen, repurposed, recreated, however you want it to call it. Um, which unfortunately it shouldn't be that way, right? If I'm great in my own magnitude, allow me to be great versus you see that I'm great and then you want to go and remix it to call it your own.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, that's it. And someone commented and said, and then when we finally get something that works for us, it gets taken from us.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just like that land. We had acres of land and they took that too. Don't get me started.
Jan was being nice today. But so that's what they're saying. So when we finally get something that works for us, like if being black is working for us, why are you taking our keywords and having it work for you when our photographers may not be aware of the strength and or the tenacity of search engine optimization, but you know it, right? Because you had access to the tools, you have access to the capital, you have access to the knowledge to know that, okay, if I just so happen to use these keywords, then I'm going to get business. Nevertheless, I'm taking it from somebody else, but that's not the point. The point is that it's going to work for me and my business. But that's a subtopic of Black History Month of how things are taken from us.
And if this was uncomfortable to hear, this is one of those situations where we have to relearn how to be better, because this is something that is done intentionally. So it comes from that mindset of, you intentionally treat people how you want to treat them. And if you know this is something that you're doing, you gotta regroup, start over.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention because I didn't even showing my ignorance there. That was never a thought that crossed my mind that that's something that someone would intentionally do and say, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
present
Yeah.
myself as being black just to capitalize on it even further. Like that actually just broke my brain a little bit thinking about that, being like, I can't wrap my head around someone doing it, but as you've just said, clearly that happens, and clearly that happens way too often. So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so aside from not bidding on keywords that people shouldn't be, what are some ways that you feel photographers can show up for the Black community and just be better?
Well, I
Oh,
think it's
great.
first going to start that somebody has to take some accountability and autonomy in you taking the initiative to learn. It is not our responsibility to come here on a 10 a.m. on a Friday morning to give other people the idea of this is what you should do. You should take it upon yourself, just like you have been doing, Jules, is to go actually show up and do the work yourself, and not depend on us in 28 days to give you our lived experience for the last however many years. Like that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is not to give you, hell, we done gave you everything. So I can't give you Black history in 28 days as well. That's your responsibility. If you want to go be better and do better, then that requires you to show up and you to actually do the work and not depend on us to give it to you.
I think it's a matter of looking for us in a sense of us being seen. And this comes from photographers to sponsors to all of that. Like, we give our money to all of these different vendors and things 365 days out of the year. We put it into our expenses, but when it comes time, just even just from a my personal relationships with sponsors. Jules, you and I have already spoken about how I feel about Sprout, but it has not always been like that. And it typically it is a checkbox situation, and I don't want to be a checkbox for anybody because I am just as bomb as whoever does not look like me. But I also need that opportunity. I can't have that opportunity to speak and present and give this pink starburst experience to people when you're not even looking for me. You're looking over me. Now I know if you're looking for me, I'm going to pop up because that's how that SEO is working. But you're looking over me because you want to get someone else who looks more relatable to, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I just think that, again, it is more than just 28 days. It is more than choosing to bring us to a podcast when it's February. It is more than just wanting us to um, work with you, monetize something outside of February. Like, if we're using your services with our business every single day, reach out to us every single day. You can find, even if you do 12 a month, there are 12 awesome photographers throughout this world that you can use and showcase and spotlight, sponsor, who has really great content to share with the world. And yet we only do it for February, or we do it when something just so bad as George Floyd happens, then everybody wants to put the black square up. The black square does nothing for me. The black square tells me that you are being silent when you need to speak up for me. So I know that I matter to you as, you know, not even as a business relationship, but just I matter to you as a person. So I think that that is something that we have to do better with. Um, I look at websites. I look at a lot of things. I look at quotes from people. I look to see if any of them look like me. If I can go to a website and feel relatable uh, uh, with that content, and I don't a lot of the times. So when you come to my website, or if you go look at my social media, my Instagram, who does that relate to? That relates to who my ideal client is. Doesn't mean that I don't photograph every single person. It means that I need to center Black excellence throughout my page. Everybody still wants to work with me because that's my authenticity behind that and my why. Like, people understand it. And obviously if they understand it, then they're not racist, you know, or anything like that. But I think that it starts with pushing us out so everybody else can see us, and not doing it just to check off the box. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. It's interesting because, as you said, you know, the feeling of being overlooked, my mind automatically just said it's both being overlooked, but it's also the understanding that, hey, like many of these companies or conferences, let's even talk about the conferences, that's a whole other thing. They're looking for sameness, and they're looking for the same type of things because they're used to being comfortable and complacent in what they've been doing for years. And because they've been doing it for years, then that says, oh, okay, let me not change. Let me not shake the boat. And I think the important lesson here for everyone on is one to be able and be willing to shake the boat, because it's a boat for a reason. The boat is a flotation device. The boat allows you to not sink, and if you shake it a little bit, you'll be fine. Um, and I think about, sponsors that I've reached out to for different conferences for speaking engagements and things like that. And I've gotten no's from some, and I've gotten yes from a couple of them. Thank you for Sprout being one of those, organizations I've partnered with over the past couple of years. Um, but seeing how um, these other photographers, these other industry leaders have been, both in their public speaking life and even in their private life, knowing a couple of them here and there, um, some of the folks that you are in the boat with, some of these conferences, right? Some of those favorite people that you like to see every day are problematic. You know, some of those folks are people who are just looking to have their pocket lined, not looking to have people of different thoughts and ideas and perspectives at the table. And so, to LaJune's point, um, like having a photographer highlighted, once a month even, um, it may not seem like it's a big deal, but it is a big deal. Just because what that does, it says, "Hey, come on the boat with us, right? And let's go somewhere." I'm using this boat analogy because I actually want to go on a boat right now, but I can't. It's cold outside. But it's working. It's working. Um, but yeah, I feel like for many of us, well, for many companies and many vendors that we've worked with, there needs to be a willingness and a need to keep the boat, and not a willingness and need to keep the boat still.
I love it.
That's a great point, and I also just wanted to say thank you to both LaJune and Osa because I know you've shared those comments with me privately, so I appreciate just that's all I can hope for is that that's one of our values as a company is just being very transparent and just exactly like you said, giving you the microphone and saying, I want you to speak. I want you to share your experiences because I don't want to speak for you. So, and I think acknowledging that too, like I think we were saying earlier, of like, I am uncomfortably aware of the privilege that I have with my voice, and I'm trying to use that to do something good with it instead of choosing to be comfortable and be quiet and not say anything. And I think it comes down to when you see something, say something. Like if you hear somebody making a really racist comment, like being comfortable and saying something, regardless of who's in the room. Like I shouldn't need to have one of my black friends in the room to say something and say, like, hey, you should be sticking up for me. Like it shouldn't matter who's there, who's listening. It's if it's internal, it's your moral compass. It's you should be comfortable saying something and calling it out when you see it, regardless of who's listening or who's watching.
Yep.
That's something that you are consciously doing on your part. So that's how you're able to break up the stigmatism, to, as Osa said, rock the boat. Um, for us to just bring more of awareness. That's all. Being more open minded. I think when people may be racist or say things that are out of line or out of pocket, it's because they're so used to the boat moving a certain way, or they may not ask for help. For example, I may have a resource that you need, but if you're not open minded to ask for the help, then you're never going to be able to progress as fast as you possibly could versus being open minded to say, hey, Shan can help me with XYZ.
Yep. Thank you for sharing. Like I don't want to keep anyone too much longer. Just if anyone has any closing thoughts that they wanted to share, I think that's probably been one of my biggest takeaways from the research I've done leading up to this, and then speaking with all of you individually, and then now on the panel is just being aware of my own biases, being aware of how much work I still need to do, how much work everyone needs to do, and I think just being comfortable, being open and starting the conversation, like you said, and continuing the conversation, not just this month, not just today, but 365 days a year, and regardless of who's listening, regardless of who's watching, and just be a good human at the end of the day.
Mm.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Actually, I'm gonna. I know we have a couple of our team members watching. There's a really great blog that I believe Carly put together a few years ago with a ton of anti-racist resources. Lauren, if you could do me a solid and drop that in the chat, because I know anyone who's listening and watching could probably stand to use some more education. And you're never done learning, I think, is probably at the end of the day.
Cool. If I have any closing thoughts, though, and this is a more of a challenge for us Black folks. I know also you similar background to me. You're not necessarily African American. You're Nigerian American, so you were like imported here. Again, I just want to read it. We have a lot of beauty in our culture, and I think also because we're photographers, we're at in essence just beyond that, we're documenting people, and I think it's our role also to document the beauty in other people. So I just want to applaud everyone that is actually doing that, just like showing the beauty in our culture and what we do, in our skin tones, in our way of doing things, in our loving and raising our children, and being better humans and improving the world as we are. And I think that's the most important thing I can take out and I can leave on the world is just demonstrate that we are beautiful, demonstrate to your children you're beautiful, and just show those elements that it could be me as a Haitian, we have great food and great costumes, and we have a great country, right? Or I mean, African American, even like in the South is different, in Texas is different, I guess, in the North it's different. So just showing those pockets, like Humans of New York has been doing great, but one camera and one lens, right? Just documenting New York, and we all know about New York now because of him. One single person with a lens and a camera, and he just explored his culture. It wasn't necessarily black, of course. It just whoever he happens to meet on the street and say hi and respond to. But again, just those examples of showing the beauty in what we do and what we are will change the tide slowly but surely.
My closing um, comments would just be to never settle as a Black person. Spread your joy, spread your excellence all throughout this world. Sprinkle it so everybody can see it. There is definitely room for all of us to be great in everything that it is we do. Um, for everyone else, please don't be threatened by the Black excellence because everybody can benefit
It's
from
it's
it.
it's coming. It's
Um,
coming.
yes, please don't be threatened by it because we can all benefit from it. And just think about how better the world could be if we could actually truly work together and build together. That's it.
I would say be authentically you and be passionate about who you are in your own skin, despite the color. We as society, as one, should be able to collaboratively come together and have these type of conversations. Walk away feeling empowered, feeling touched, moved, and inspired. Um, and that's the purpose of these type of conversations. One is the educational awareness, but two, so that if there's some things or some false truths that you didn't even realize you had, now you're able to unlearn those things and put into action what you've learned from conversations like today.
I think a closing thought is remember that just the act of breathing, right, is a celebration. Um, and we breathe how many hundreds of thousands of times throughout the day. Um, and your existence is a celebration in itself. And so I want you to remember that as we go through, all these different things in life, whether it's, a failed sponsorship request or an accepted sponsorship request or having to witness police brutality, um, or having to um, be a recipient of a grant or do all of these amazing things in life. They all have meaning. They all have a purpose. They all have their place in your life and your time and in your story. And in that, um, something beautiful can still come out of that. Um, and that story deserves to be told. So tell your story unapologetically and at all times.
I think my closing remark is thank you all for doing the work. That's it. That's all I got.
Short and sweet.
Thank
I
you.
love it.
Yeah, thank you for doing the work. It is not unnoticed. Let me just say that it is not unnoticed, Jules, that you did some work to make sure this went off without a hitch. And you did your research on every one of us and made sure that um, the bios were beautiful, that your questions were thoughtful and insightful, and that as a company, Sprout Studio is committed to doing the work. And so I just wanted to say thank you to you and Brian and the entire team for staying committed to doing the work.
Oh, thank you for saying that from the bottom of my heart. I'm like getting a little emotional because I feel very passionately, and it really means a lot to hear that coming from you, Dr. Tomoya. So thank you. And yeah, that's all I could hope for. So I just wanted to thank all of you as well, individually, for coming today, for helping me sit in my discomfort and share what I've learned and what I've unlearned over the past couple weeks. And I hope this conversation inspires anyone who is watching and listening to do the work, to start doing better, and to, like I said, just be a good human and treat other people the way you want to be treated. And Lauren has done us a solid and dropped everyone's social link in the comments. So if you want to stay connected with our guests today, that's the best way to do so. I know everyone's very active on Instagram, so that's probably the best place to stay connected as well. And sorry, I'm just creeping the comments one last time.
Can I take a screen grab of everybody really quick?
Yes, please do.
Okay, here we go. Hold on. Everybody smile. Ready? I got it. Okay.
Yay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful Friday, and we'll see you again.
Okay, thank you for having us.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
But